Welcome to another episode of A Day in the Life of Rural Reentry. It's Pride Month, and this is a time of the year that we can recognize a group of people who have historically been marginalized, discriminated against, and in some cases even treated violently in mainstream society. It wasn't that long ago that LGBTQ people were considered not quite human. At least not as human as us cisgender heterosexual folks. But somewhere along the way, America gave up its fear of LGBTQ folks, at least in most places. And today, as I drive around my town, I see rainbow flags everywhere. And as a Christian who believes that all human beings are made in the image of God and thus have inherent worth, I find it incredibly inspiring. Now, I know we still have a long way to go before we realize full visibility and inclusion of people who have systematically been marginalized in our culture. The laws have changed along the way so that at least there is some protection against blatant discrimination and dehumanization. The incarcerated and formerly incarcerated are still systematically and blatantly discriminated against, marginalized, and dehumanized in our culture. I have friends who will fight hard for immigration reform or LGBTQ rights. They'll show up to Black Lives Matter protests. But the minute I say that we need to reform the criminal justice system for the 2.3 million people that we have behind bars and the over 70 million people who are daily discriminated against because they have a criminal record, these friends will stop me and say, whoa, it's not the same. Those folks have broken the law. They need to be held accountable. Is accountability feeding someone food that is literally labeled not fit for human consumption? Is accountability depriving people access to their loved ones because we move them to prisons far away from where their families are and then charge exorbitant amounts for them to make simple phone calls home? Is accountability subjecting incarcerated people to slave labor? That is still protected in our Constitution. It's right there in the middle of the 13th Amendment. An exception to slavery. Did you know that someone can be kept in solitary confinement while the prison does an investigation into whether or not the officer who put them there was justified in taking that action? I know a woman who was kept in a concrete cell for 30 days while the prison did an investigation and then determined that she did nothing wrong. The officer that put her there never even apologized or even acknowledged how incredibly traumatizing and disorienting that experience is. And if you care about pride, you need to know that LGBTQ folks are incarcerated at 3 times the rate of their straight counterparts in mainstream society. They are more likely to be harassed by police, and they are more often the recipients of sexual victimization coming from staff and from incarcerated people. Everything about the way that we treat people who break the law in this country is designed to dehumanize. From the spaces that we build to cage them, to taking away their right to vote, to denying them decent health care or food, and the most basic human need of having connection to the people that they love. Everything about the system screams, oh, you're not like us, and you don't belong. And when someone is told they don't belong long enough, eventually they don't want to belong anymore. And stealing my car to feed an untreated addiction, that doesn't seem like such a bad choice after all. So as we celebrate Pride Month, and how important LGBTQ people are to the fabric of our communities, let's keep working and pushing toward a day when everyone, all neighbors, are given what they need to thrive and contribute and belong. 95% of everyone that we put behind bars in this country is coming right back to the neighborhood. Who do we want them to be?